So what keeps you, well, this is another unique thing about James. You may just take it for granted. He's an art teacher who makes art. Be surprised to make stop kind of doing it. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of that. So what has kept you motivated to keep making art?
Oh, well, you hit the nail on the head. This is something I discuss a lot in the art education circles. Had a big audience last year when we discussed this about why it's important for art teachers to keep making art.
Yeah.
And we had a packed house because I think people struggle with that. If anyone's taught, they realize how emotionally, physically demanding a job it is. It really is.
Oh, it's so emotionally demanding because you have all these little souls.
Yeah.
And they're looking up to you in a way. And you're like, I'm just me. You know,
and stuff happens.
And stuff happens with them, and they're going through stuff, and it's such a tumultuous time of age, like their parents get divorced or whatever,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, your question was again,
why did you keep making art?
Yes.
Sorry. But,
I forgot. I got off the
No, that's my fault. My fault.
No, but it's why I started teaching. Art matters to me. That process, that journey. I mean, I had two great high school art teachers in Timpview. And I wanted to not lose that. And in fact, I remember talking to one of the other teachers, and they hadn't made anything in 20 years. And I thought, that seemed so strange to me that you're teaching something you're not doing yourself.
Yeah.
It seemed inauthentic. It seemed disingenuous.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a challenge, but I've always kept it up because it's important to me, and I didn't want to lose that. So, for 30 years, teaching was 70% of my job, but the other 30 was I was doing art and trying to balance that and make, be a father, be a spouse, and do all the other things, and juggling that and keeping that balance was a challenge. But now I'm doing art 70% of the time, and then I'm doing some teaching of that on the side. I do some consulting work with a company back east, Davis Publishing, and now that's the 30%.
Okay.
So they've kind of shifted, but I've always kept art production as something that was valuable, and that just was, like anything that's intentional or anything that's important, you have to just schedule it out, and you have to be routine. You have to have that routine.
Make a priority and be like, okay,
Absolutely.
I'm making art, making something, even if it's terrible, in this 2-hour time period on Tuesday or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way. I do think a lot of people, it's like, it's art. Art is emotional. Teaching is emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes emotionally hard for them to make art.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Something I did, and something I preach about to educators is in between the transitioning from the classroom into the studio. It's important, I think, to do something that kind of cleanse the palate or you shift gears eventually. Yeah. For me, it's mountain biking. I go and do that, and it kind of clears me emotionally, physically.
Oh yeah,
I'm ready to enter into new creative space. I do see the classroom as a creative space, but it's very different than what happens in the studio. But there's some overlap. But you have to do something to shift gears.
Yeah, something physical. That's a really good idea. Yeah. I mean, mountain biking, that'd be wonderful. But I mean, even if you could just do like 2 sets of push-ups,
absolutely, or yoga or something,
just like something just to kind of shift your brain. Yeah, no, I mean, to me, a traumatic thing about teaching, and I mean, I only taught for a few years, but is that a hard thing about it is you see kids going through problems and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. It's just weird. I don't know. You
can create a safe space. Hopefully.
Well, yeah, I mean, they get in your classroom, they have a good time, but you're one of, there's only so much. I mean, even your best friend, there's only so much you can do if they're going through a problem.
Yeah, but you do what you can do, right? With the constraints that you have.
Yeah. So anyway, but still, you're there. I mean, you're just exposed to so many people. And also another thing is, particularly in public high school, you're just there. Whoever signs up the class, you're like, oh, you're going to affect the quality of my life for the next 3 months.
Well, and that is the challenge in high school. You have some that are there because they really want it, and other people that are there just because they were put in that class. And it's sometimes hard to convince people that the arts matter to them, or could potentially.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, this is in a way maybe why I didn't last in teaching. But I had a theory that like art is hard. I'm going to teach this fast. I know you can see the students are just getting it. I'm just going to keep moving with them because they're the ones who are going to, this really matters. And then some don't, because they get frustrated. they get frustrated, you keep moving. And so do you teach to like the bottom of the class or to the top of the class?
That's a good
Or do you
question.
find a happy medium?
I'm trying to bring everyone along, but obviously I'm trying to convey the content of what we're trying to get, the ideas. And
Yeah.
it does, and the thing, the when I taught, anyone could rework thing any time they wanted, as many times as they needed to get to that place. And some people, it will take longer.
Yeah.
But it does take effort, and sometimes people don't want to do that, for they want something easy. I'm sure you hear this all the time with video production. I did a project with digital storytelling. Students were amazed how much work was involved in putting together a digital story, right?
Yeah.
Images and audio.
Oh, so much work.
And,
Nobody
and
understands
the
that.
analyst says, yeah, it's almost like a work of art, isn't it? But they're sometimes surprised by the effort. And anything meaningful does require a lot of work and effort, but not everyone's wanting to be able to put that in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and also I think that's a thing. Like, there's a great movie, Art School Confidential. Have you seen it?
I haven't. I've heard of it. I have a friend that recommended it.
You should watch it. I mean, it's kind of a satirical view on art school. It stars John Malkovich, but it's if you've been to art school, it will ring true with you. But there's a character there who ends up being the murderer. Sorry, spoiler. But he's like a legit artist, and he talks to the young artist and he says, do you think people do art because they want to go to be in the center of attention at a big show opening? They don't. They do it just for that creative bliss when things connect. Mm-hmm. And that's 100% true. Because if you do art, you do way more production than you do show openings.
Oh, yeah.
And I think people, they see the artist at the show opening and they're like, I want to be that person. But you don't realize that's such a small part of the job. And honestly, people who last in art, I don't even feel really like show openings a whole lot. I mean, they like them, but it's more complicated than you think.